Hello, America. I'm Erick Erickson, and these are the four things you need to know this afternoon for December 5th, 2025. Up first, the Supreme Court's going to take up Donald Trump's birthright citizenship order. This is going to be the first time they considered it. Remember, there was a case previously, but it actually involved nationwide injunctions. And now this is the same case making its way back to the Supreme Court. And at that time, although the court wanted to focus on nationwide injunctions, even Clarence Thomas in oral arguments raised skepticism about changing the long-held view that if you're born in the United States, you become an American citizen regardless of whether your parents were American citizens. Now, this comes from a case called Wong Kim Ark way back in the late 1800s, in the 19th century. The Supreme Court ruled that a Chinese boy born here in the United States to immigrants was an American citizen. Now, there's long been an argument because the parents were lawfully allowed to be in the United States at the point of his birth. A lot of people who oppose birthright citizenship say we've been interpreting this case for 100 years wrong, that because the parents were illegally allowed to be in the country, that allowed the boy to become an American citizen. They argue illegal aliens don't fit the fact pattern. For 100 years, courts have ruled otherwise. Now the Supreme Court will be definitive about it. The arguments are probably going to be held in April with a court case by the very end of June. I'd actually be surprised if the Supreme Court upends birthright citizenship the way some want. Regulators have decided to relax rules on high-risk lending. There are actually two stories here. You need to pay attention to both of them. This is the first one. Regulators are relaxing rules on high-risk lending. This has a lot to do with private credit and how investments are made in the country. The rules come from 2013, and those rules were derived from the 2008 financial crisis. The Obama administration restricted lending in this country, high-risk lending to banks and other financial institutions, and regulators say it's time to relax those rules now. We've moved on. Now, let's tie this into the third story. Get ready for VantageScore 4.0. FICO and others are announcing this. Now, what is VantageScore 4.0? Well, it's a credit scoring model that's been developed by the three major credit bureaus, and it uses machine learning and trended data to provide a more comprehensive and predictive assessment of a person's credit worthiness. It's designed to score millions more consumers by analyzing credit behavior related to things based on alternative data like the regular payment of rent and utility bills and phone payments. Now, why? There are a lot of people in the country, particularly in the Christian community, who for a long time, following the Dave Ramsey model and others, they paid for cash for everything. The result is that they don't have good credit. They don't have good credit because they haven't taken out loans, because they're pretty model citizens. But the result is when it comes time to buy a home, they can't get a home because, well, they've never taken out loans before because they paid cash for everything. So those people should be able, in theory, to have very good credit, but they have no credit because they've never been borrowing. They haven't used credit cards. They paid for cash. So for a while now, the major credit bureaus have wanted to come up with a new way to assess those people. VantageScore 4.0 is what they call it. In theory, it's going to allow more Americans to get credit for things like buying homes without having to take out credit cards. In practice, you could also see how this could be used for diversity, equity, and inclusion things, not with this administration, of course, but in the future, to diversify the rulings for people to be able to get credit. This could actually ultimately result in people who aren't credit-worthy getting credit to be able to buy mortgages, causing a future housing crisis. That's not what it's intended, but you can see where this goes. You add this to story number 2, the relaxed rules on high-risk lending, and, well, you can see we're setting ourselves up for probably a future financial crisis outside of the AI bubble, of course. Lastly, a federal judge has authorized the release of grand jury testimony in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Get ready, folks. Now, grand jury testimony is not supposed to be released, but in light of the federal Congress passing the law allowing the release of all information related to Jeffrey Epstein, the federal judge who earlier said the testimony couldn't be released, he's changed his mind based on an argument from the U.S. Department of Justice and Pam Bondi. So the Jeffrey Epstein testimony to grand juries is going to be released. It's multiple grand jury testimonies. It is going to be subject to redaction. There is no date yet on when it will be released based on those redactions, but it is now coming based on a federal order. These are the 4 things you need to know this afternoon before you get home, and have a great weekend. And remember, going to church on Sunday is a decision you make on Saturday, so start talking about it Friday. You guys have a great weekend.